Jack Morrison wiped the grease from his hands and looked at the old truck engine he had just fixed. It was past midnight, and the auto shop was quiet except for the soft hum of the fluorescent lights above. He had been working on this engine for 3 hours, but he enjoyed the challenge. Every bolt, every wire, every moving part made sense to him. Machines were simple and honest. They worked when you treated them right. Jack was 32 years old and had been fixing things his whole life. His father taught him to work with tools when he was just 8 years old. Now he owned a small repair shop in Detroit, Michigan. People brought him broken cars, broken appliances, and broken dreams. He fixed what he could and charged fair prices. It was not exciting work, but it was honest work. He lived alone in a small apartment above his shop. His wife had left him 2 years ago, saying he cared more about machines than people. Maybe she was right. Jack found machines easier to understand than people. Machines did not lie or cheat or leave you when things got hard. The radio in the corner was playing late-night news. Jack barely listened as he cleaned his tools. The news was always the same. Politicians arguing, crime in the streets, problems with no easy solutions. He preferred the simple problems of broken engines and worn-out parts. Then the radio crackled and went silent. Jack looked up, frowning. The lights flickered once, twice, then died completely. The whole street went dark. Power outages were common in this part of Detroit, but this felt different. The darkness was too complete, too sudden. Jack grabbed a flashlight from his toolbox and stepped outside. The night sky should have been orange with city lights, but it was black as ink. No street lights, no house lights, no car lights anywhere. Even the distant glow of downtown Detroit was gone. Other people were coming out of their homes, talking in worried voices. Mrs. Patterson from next door called out to Jack. "What do you think happened, Jack?" The power just died everywhere. Before Jack could answer, the sky began to glow. Not with returning electricity, but with something else. Something wrong. Green light pulsed across the clouds like lightning. But it did not fade. It grew brighter and brighter until the whole sky turned. The color of sick water. Then they appeared. The ships came through the clouds like metal mountains. They were huge, bigger than any building Jack had ever seen. Their surfaces were smooth and dark, with lines of green light running across them like veins. They moved without sound, floating through the air as if gravity meant nothing to them. People in the streets stopped talking. Children began to cry. Someone screamed. More ships appeared. Dozens of them, then hundreds. They spread across the sky like a plague of metal locusts. Jack counted at least 50 ships just in the part of sky he could see from his street. Each one was big enough to hold thousands of people. The largest ship settled directly over downtown Detroit. It was so big it blocked out half the sky. Green beams of light shot down from its belly, and where they touched the ground, buildings began to crumble. Not explode, not burn, but simply fall apart like sand castles. Jack ran back into his shop and turned on his battery-powered radio. Static filled the air, broken by panicked voices from radio stations around the world. London was under attack. Tokyo was under attack. Moscow, Paris, New York, all under attack. The same ships, the same green lights, the same impossible destruction. One voice came through clearer than the rest. It was a military radio frequency that Jack sometimes picked up late at night. The voice was calm but urgent. "This is General Adams at NORAD. We are under attack by unknown forces. Repeat, we are under attack. All military units respond immediately. Nuclear weapons have been authorized. Repeat, nuclear weapons are authorized." Jack felt cold fear creep up his spine. If the military was talking about nuclear weapons, things were worse than he thought. Much worse. The radio crackled again. A new voice spoke, but it was not human. The words were in English, but the voice was wrong, too deep, too smooth, like metal scraping against metal. "People of Earth, you will cease all resistance immediately. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your governments cannot protect you. We are the Valkyrie Empire. We have conquered 47 worlds before yours. You are now our property." The voice paused, letting the words sink in. Jack felt his hands shaking as he gripped the radio. "You will be sorted by usefulness. The strong will work. The weak will be disposed of. Those who resist will be made examples of. Your cities will be preserved for our use. Your people will serve the Empire. This is not negotiable. The radio went dead again. Jack looked out his window at the massive ships hovering over the city. In the distance, he could see smaller ships landing in the streets. Creatures were coming out of them. Even from far away, he could tell they were not human. They were too tall, too wide, moving in ways that looked wrong. People were running now, screaming, trying to get away from the landing ships. But there was nowhere to go. The alien ships were everywhere. Jack made a decision that would change his life forever. Instead of running, he started gathering supplies. He filled a backpack with tools, spare parts, and his portable radio. He grabbed bottles of water and canned food from his small kitchen. He took his father's old army jacket from the closet and put it on. Most importantly, he took his notebook. For 20 years, Jack had written down everything he learned about fixing. Machines, every trick, every shortcut, every way to make broken things work again. The notebook was thick with his careful handwriting and detailed drawings. As he packed, Jack thought about what the alien voice had said. They had conquered 47 worlds. That meant they had done this before, many times. They had perfected the art of taking over planets. But Jack had perfected the art of fixing things that were broken. Maybe Earth was broken now. Maybe the human race was broken. But Jack Morrison knew how to fix broken things. He heard footsteps in the street outside. Heavy footsteps, too heavy for human feet. Through his window he saw them clearly for the first time. The Valkyrie were 7 feet tall with blue-gray skin that looked like armor. They had 4 arms, each ending in hands with too many fingers. Their heads were larger than human heads, with eyes that glowed yellow in the dark. They carried weapons that looked like nothing Jack had ever seen. Curved metal objects that hummed with energy. When they pointed these weapons at fleeing humans, beams of green light shot out. The humans just fell down and did not get up again. Jack turned off his flashlight and crouched below the window. His heart was pounding so hard he thought the aliens might hear it. But his mind was working clearly now, the way it always did when he faced a complex problem. The aliens had technology far beyond anything humans possessed. Their ships defied physics as Jack understood it. Their weapons were incredibly powerful, but they were still machines, and machines followed rules. If Jack could understand the rules, he could find weaknesses. He watched as the Valkyrie soldiers herded surviving humans into groups. They were sorting people, just like the voice had. The young and strong went to one group. The old and weak went to another. Jack was horrified to see what happened to the second group, but he forced himself to keep watching, to keep learning. The aliens moved with purpose and efficiency. They had done this before many times. They knew exactly how to break human resistance and crush human hope. What they did not know was that they had never met anyone like Jack Morrison, a man who looked at impossible problems and found ways to solve them, a man who never gave up when things got hard. The invasion of Earth was complete in less than 6 hours. But Jack Morrison's war against the Valkyrie Empire was just beginning. The transport ship was enormous inside, bigger than any building Jack had ever seen. Thousands of humans sat on the cold metal floor, packed together like cattle. The air smelled of fear, sweat, and something else. Something alien and wrong. Jack had been captured 3 days after the invasion. He tried to hide in his shop, but the Valkyrie found him anyway. They seemed to know exactly where to look for hiding humans. Their technology could probably see through walls or detect body heat. Jack filed that information away in his mind for later use. The journey to the alien mining world took 2 weeks. During that time, Jack learned everything he could about his captors. He watched the Valkyrie guards carefully, studying how they moved, how they acted, and most importantly, how their equipment worked. The guards were huge and intimidating. Their blue-gray skin looked like natural armor, and their 4 arms made them incredibly strong. But Jack noticed they were not as smart as they looked. They followed the same patrol routes every day. They checked the same areas at the same times. They were creatures of habit, just like the machines Jack used to fix. More importantly, Jack studied their weapons and equipment. The energy weapons they carried had a small power pack attached to the side. When the pack glowed bright green, the weapon was ready to fire. When it dimmed, the weapon needed time to recharge. That meant there was a weakness. Every machine had weaknesses. Jack was not alone in his observations. A woman named Lisa Carter sat near him on the transport ship. She had been a nurse before the invasion, and she was trying to help the sick and injured humans around them. Lisa was smart and brave, and she had also been watching the guards. "They think we are just dumb animals," Lisa whispered to Jack one night. "They do not even try to hide their equipment from us." Jack nodded. "That is their mistake. I have been watching their energy weapons. They have a power cycle of about 30 seconds between shots, and their armor has joints that look vulnerable." An old man sitting nearby heard them talking. His name was Pete Williams, and he had been a soldier in Vietnam many years ago. Pete was in his 70s now, but his eyes were still sharp and angry. "You two are planning something," Pete said quietly. "Good. I was starting to think all humans had given up." The three of them began to meet secretly during the long journey. They found a few other humans who still had fight left in them. There was Danny Rodriguez, a young man who had worked with computers before the invasion. There was Mary Johnson, a teacher who was good at organizing people. And there was Frank Davis, a construction worker who knew how to build things quickly. And quietly, Jack became the unofficial leader of their small group. He had a way of looking at problems that made others believe they could be solved. When people saw Jack studying the alien technology with calm concentration, they began to hope. Again, the transport ship finally reached its destination. The planet was called Kepler 442b, according to the alien computers that Danny had learned to read. It was a harsh world with thin air and constant wind. The sky was red instead of blue, and there were no plants or animals anywhere. The humans were herded off the ship and into a large camp surrounded by tall metal walls. Guard towers stood at each corner, manned by Valkyrie soldiers with those deadly energy weapons. The camp held about 2,000 humans, all of them scared and broken. Jack looked around the camp and saw opportunity everywhere. The walls were tall, but they were made of metal plates bolted together. The guard towers had power lines running to them from a central generator. The aliens had built their prison like a machine, and Jack knew how to break machines. The humans were divided into work groups. Jack, Lisa, Pete, and the others were assigned to the cobalt mines. The work was backbreaking. They had to dig deep into the rocky ground with primitive tools while alien overseers watched them constantly. The aliens fed them just enough to keep them alive, but not enough to make them strong. Many humans gave up hope completely. They worked like robots during the day and stared at nothing during the night. But Jack's group kept meeting in secret, planning and preparing for something bigger. Jack spent his time in the mines studying the mining equipment. The aliens used powerful laser drills to cut through the hardest rock. These drills were connected to the same power grid that fed the guard towers and the camp walls. Jack began to understand how the alien power systems worked. The key discovery came during Jack's third week in the mines. He was working near a laser drill when it malfunctioned. The drill started sparking and shooting energy in random directions. The alien overseer, a brutal creature called Vorthak, tried to fix it with a handheld device. Jack watched carefully as Vorthak worked. The handheld device was clearly some kind of universal tool that could interface with all alien technology. When Vorthak finished fixing the drill, he carelessly set the device down while he went to check on other workers. Jack made his move. He quickly grabbed the device and pretended to trip, falling behind a pile of rocks. In the few seconds he had before the alien noticed, Jack studied the device carefully. It was covered in alien symbols, but the basic design was similar to electronic tools Jack had used on Earth. There were connection ports, power indicators, and what looked like a frequency dial. When Vorthak discovered the device was missing, he became furious. He searched every human in the area, but Jack had already hidden the device in a crack in the rock wall. The alien never found it. That night, Jack showed the device to his group. Danny was excited because he recognized some of the symbols from the alien computer systems. Lisa thought it might be used for medical purposes as well as mechanical ones. Pete just wanted to know if it could be used as a weapon. Jack spent the next few days learning to use the device. It was more complex than any tool he had ever seen, but the basic principles were the same. It could diagnose problems, adjust settings, and even reprogram simple systems. Most importantly, it could interface with the mining equipment. The plan began to form in Jack's mind. The mining lasers were powerful enough to cut through solid rock. If he could modify them slightly, they might be powerful enough to cut through alien armor. And if he could access the power grid, he might be able to disrupt the entire camp's electrical system, but first, he needed to test his theory. And that meant taking a terrible risk. The opportunity came when Vorthak caught Danny trying to access one of the alien communication terminals. The cruel overseer dragged Danny to the center of the camp where all the humans could see. He was going to make an example of him, just like the aliens had promised. Jack knew he had to act. He had been preparing for this moment for weeks. He had modified one of the mining lasers with the alien device, adjusting its power frequency and focusing its beam. He had no idea if it would work, but he had to try. Vorthak raised his energy weapon toward Danny, ready to kill him in front of everyone. The other humans cowered in fear, just as they had been trained to do. The alien guards watched with cruel satisfaction, but Jack Morrison was not cowering. He was behind one of the mining rigs, holding his modified laser drill. He had connected it to the main power line, giving it more energy than it was designed to handle. The device hummed with dangerous power. Jack stepped out from behind the machine and pointed the laser at Vorthak. The alien overseer turned toward him, more annoyed than afraid. After all, what could a weak human do against a mighty Valkyrie warrior? Jack pulled the trigger. The beam of energy that shot from the modified laser was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. It was pure white light, brighter than the sun, and it moved faster than thought. It hit Vorthak in the center of his chest, and went completely through him. The 7-foot-tall alien warrior simply disappeared. There was no blood, no scream, no dramatic death. One moment he was there, the next moment he was gone. Only a small pile of ash remained where he had been. Standing, the entire camp fell silent. Humans stared in shock and wonder. The other alien guards stepped backward, their weapons raised but their confidence shaken. For the first time since the invasion began, they looked afraid. Jack Morrison had just done something impossible. He had killed a Valkyrie warrior with human ingenuity and alien technology. He had shown that the mighty empire was not invincible after all. The silence lasted for exactly 10 seconds. Then chaos erupted throughout the mining camp. The remaining Valkyrie guards shouted orders in their harsh alien language. Their weapons powered up with angry green light. But something had changed in their movements. They were no longer moving like masters of the universe. They were moving like soldiers who had just seen their commander killed by an enemy they thought was harmless. Jack stood perfectly still, the modified laser drill still, smoking in his hands. He had known this moment would come, but he had not expected it to feel so strange. He had just killed a living being for the first time in his life. Even though that being was a cruel alien monster, Jack felt the weight of what he had done, but there was no time for regret. The other guards were raising their weapons toward him. Jack dove behind the mining equipment just as energy beams scorched the ground where he had been standing. The beams left smoking holes in the metal and rock. "Jack!" Lisa screamed from across the camp. "Get down!" But Jack was already moving. He had spent weeks studying the layout of the camp, memorizing every piece of equipment, every power line, every possible hiding spot. He rolled behind a large drill and came up with another modified laser in his hands. The Valkyrie guards were spreading out, trying to surround him. There were 6 of them left in the immediate area, all armed with the deadly energy weapons. Under normal circumstances, Jack would have been dead in seconds. But these were not normal circumstances anymore. Jack had spent 3 weeks preparing for this moment. He had modified not just one laser drill, but 5 of them. He had rerouted power lines to create backup energy sources. Most importantly, he had trained Lisa, Pete, Danny, and several other humans to use the modified equipment. The second guard died when Pete Williams emerged from behind a ore cart with a modified laser of his own. The old Vietnam veteran had steady hands and perfect aim. The alien warrior fell without knowing what had hit him. Now the remaining guards were truly afraid. They had never faced organized human resistance before. On every other world they had conquered, the local population had either fled in terror or died in hopeless frontal attacks. But the humans in this camp were doing something different. They were fighting smart. Danny Rodriguez had been hiding near the power control station during the entire confrontation. When Jack gave him the signal, Danny used the alien device to shut down the camp's main power grid. The lights went out, the guard towers went dark, and the electric fences stopped working. In the darkness, Jack and his team had every advantage. They knew the camp layout perfectly, while the guards were suddenly blind and confused. The modified laser weapons worked even without main power, running off the portable energy cells that Jack had jury-rigged from alien equipment. The battle lasted only 15 minutes, but it changed everything. When the lights came back on, all the Valkyrie guards in the camp were dead. 2,000 human prisoners stood in shocked silence, hardly believing what they had just witnessed. Jack climbed onto a pile of mining equipment so everyone could see him. His clothes were torn and dirty, his face was covered in sweat and dust, but his eyes burned with determination. "Listen to me," he shouted to the crowd. "We just proved something important. These aliens are not gods. They are not invincible. They can be beaten, they can be killed, and we are going to kill every single one of them." Some of the humans began to cheer, but Jack held up his hand for silence. "But first, we need to be smart about this. They will send more guards when these ones do not report back. We need to be ready. We need weapons, we need organization, and we need to work together." Over the next few days, Jack organized the camp like a military base. Lisa took charge of medical care and communications. Pete trained combat teams using his old military knowledge. Danny worked on understanding more of the alien technology. Frank Davis and his construction crews built fortifications and weapons. Jack spent his time doing what he did best, fixing things and making them better. He took apart alien equipment piece by piece, learning how each component worked. He discovered that Valkyrie technology was incredibly advanced, but it was also predictable. It followed logical patterns that an experienced engineer could understand. The breakthrough came when Jack found the alien communication array. It was hidden in the command center, protected by locks that Danny had learned to bypass. The array was connected to the entire Valkyrie military network, carrying messages between ships, bases, and command centers across the galaxy. Jack could not understand the alien language, but he could read the technical data. Energy patterns, weapon specifications, ship movements, troop deployments. The aliens were transmitting massive amounts of military information with no encryption, because they never imagined that primitive humans could intercept their communications. "They are getting worried," Danny said as he translated some of the messages. "They are calling us an unexpected resistance factor and asking for advice from their high command." Jack smiled grimly. "Good, let them worry. But we need to move fast. According to these intercepts, they are sending a full battalion to retake this camp. 300 soldiers with heavy weapons." The news should have been terrifying, but Jack had been preparing for this moment. He had spent the past week turning the mining camp into a fortress. Every piece of equipment had been modified into a weapon. Every building had been turned into a defensive position. Every human in the camp had been trained to fight. Most importantly, Jack had figured out how to modify the mining mechs. The mechs were huge robotic suits designed to dig through solid rock. They were 12 feet tall, heavily armored, and incredibly strong. The aliens used them for the most dangerous mining operations, but they had never imagined that humans might be able to operate them. Jack had other ideas. He spent days studying the mech control systems, learning how to override the safety protocols and boost the power output. He installed weapon systems made from modified mining lasers. He upgraded the armor with salvaged alien materials. By the time he was finished, the mining mechs had become war machines. The Valkyrie battalion arrived exactly when the intercepted messages said they would. 300 alien soldiers in advanced combat armor supported by flying attack vehicles and heavy energy weapons. They expected to find a camp full of cowering prisoners. Instead, they found a fortress defended by humans who had learned to fight back. The battle was unlike anything the Valkyrie had ever experienced. Jack led 12 modified mining mechs against their armored vehicles, while human fighters with modified laser weapons attacked from concealed positions. The aliens found themselves facing an enemy that used their own technology against them, and used it better than they did. Jack's mech was in the center of the fighting, its massive arms crushing alien vehicles and its weapon systems cutting through enemy formations. The other humans watched in amazement as their former repair shop owner became a one-man army, destroying everything in his path. But Jack was not fighting alone. Lisa coordinated the defense from the command center, directing human fighters to where they were needed most. Pete led assault teams that captured alien weapons and equipment. Danny jammed enemy communications and fed false information to their command structure. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the entire Valkyrie battalion had been destroyed. Not a single alien soldier escaped to report back to their commanders. The humans had not just won a battle. They had won it so completely that the enemy high command would have no idea what had happened. Jack stood in the ruins of the battlefield, surrounded by destroyed alien vehicles and equipment. His mech was damaged but still functional. Around him, 2,000 humans were cheering and crying with joy and relief, but Jack was already thinking about the next battle. He knew that word of this victory would spread throughout the Valkyrie Empire. He knew that they would send even more soldiers, even more weapons, even more determination to crush the human resistance. What the aliens did not know was that Jack Morrison was just getting started. Every battle taught him more about their technology. Every victory brought him more weapons and equipment. Every day made him more dangerous. The ghost engineer had been born in the fires of rebellion, and he was going to burn the Valkyrie Empire to the ground. The message came through the alien communication network 3 days after the battle. Danny Rodriguez had been monitoring Valkyrie military channels when he heard something that made his blood run cold. "Jack, you need to hear this." Danny called from the command center. Jack was working on a damaged mech in the repair bay, his hands covered in alien hydraulic fluid. He had barely slept since the battle, spending every waking moment preparing for the next attack. The victory over the Valkyrie battalion had been complete, but Jack knew it was only the beginning. He walked into the command center where Danny was sitting in front of the alien communication array. The young man's face was pale with shock. "What is it?" Jack asked as Danny played back the recorded message. The alien voices were harsh and guttural, but Danny had learned enough of their language to translate the important parts. "They are calling you the ghost engineer," Danny said. "They say you appear from nowhere, strike with impossible weapons, and vanish before reinforcements arrive. They are saying you are not human." Jack frowned. "What do you mean, not human?" "According to their reports, you are 10 feet tall, bulletproof, and able to destroy entire fleets by yourself. They think you are some kind of secret human weapon that their intelligence missed." Lisa Carter, who had been listening from across the room, started laughing. 10 feet tall? Jack, you are barely 6 feet on a good day." But Jack was not amused. He understood what was happening. Fear was spreading through the Valkyrie Empire, and fear made people see things that were not there. The aliens were so terrified of him that they were turning him into a monster in their own minds. "This is actually good news," Jack said after thinking about it. "If they are afraid of me, they will make mistakes. Scared soldiers do not fight as well as confident ones." Over the next few weeks, more messages came through the alien network. Reports of the ghost engineer were spreading across dozens of worlds. Valkyrie commanders were reporting mysterious attacks on their bases, always with the same pattern. Silent approach, devastating assault, complete disappearance. The truth was simpler and more impressive than the alien reports suggested. Jack had not been attacking other worlds personally. Instead, he had been teaching other humans how to fight back. The key was the alien communication network itself. Danny had figured out how to send messages through the system without being detected. Jack used this to contact human prisoners on other worlds. Sharing his knowledge of alien technology and tactics, the instructions were simple but effective. Find the weak points in alien equipment. Use their own tools against them. Work together as a team. Strike fast and disappear. Most importantly, never give up hope. The results were extraordinary. On the mining world of Kepler 186F, a group of human prisoners used Jack's techniques to destroy a Valkyrie supply depot. On the agricultural world of Gliese 667c, human slaves modified farming equipment into weapons and freed 3,000 prisoners. On the industrial world of Proxima Centauri b, human workers sabotaged the alien factories and escaped into the wilderness. Every success was attributed to the ghost engineer. The Valkyrie High Command became convinced that Jack Morrison was personally leading attacks across their entire empire. They had no idea that he was actually still on Kepler 442b, building an army of human rebels. Jack's original team had grown into something much larger. Lisa Carter now commanded over 300 human fighters, all trained in alien technology and guerrilla warfare tactics. Pete Williams had organized supply lines and communication networks across 12 different worlds. Danny Rodriguez had become an expert in alien computer systems, able to hack into any Valkyrie network, but Jack's most important achievement was the transformation of the mining camp itself. What had once been a prison had become a fortress and a factory. Human engineers worked around the clock to modify alien equipment into weapons and vehicles. The mining mechs had been upgraded with heavier armor and more powerful weapons. Most importantly, Jack had figured out how to build new mechs from salvaged alien materials. The breakthrough came when Jack discovered that Valkyrie technology was modular. Every piece of equipment was designed to work with every other piece. A power cell from a weapon could run a vehicle. A sensor from a ship could be installed in a mech. A communication array from a base could be connected to a weapon system. This meant that every piece of alien equipment the humans captured made them stronger. Every battle gave them more tools to work with. Every victory brought them closer to being able to match the aliens. In terms of technology, the Valkyrie High Command finally decided to take direct action. They could not afford to have stories of human resistance spreading throughout their empire. Other conquered species might start getting ideas about fighting back. The decision was made to send General Kethfer to deal with the ghost engineer personally. Kethfer was the most feared warrior in the Valkyrie Empire, a legend among his own people. He had personally conquered 15 worlds and had never lost a battle. He was 8 feet tall, incredibly strong, and equipped with the finest weapons. An armor the Empire could provide. More importantly, Kethfer understood psychology. He knew that the ghost engineer had become a symbol of hope for humans throughout the galaxy. If he could kill Jack Morrison in single combat, he would break the spirit of human resistance forever. The challenge came through the alien communication network. Kethfer's message was broadcast to every world in the Empire, translated into every language. Human called the ghost engineer. You have caused trouble for the Valkyrie Empire. You have given false hope to your species. I am General Kethfer, destroyer of worlds, victor of 1,000 battles. I challenge you to single combat. Face me like a warrior, or be known forever as a coward who hides behind others. Jack was in the repair bay when Danny brought him the message. He listened to it 3 times, thinking carefully about what it meant. Around him, other humans had gathered to hear his response. He wants to fight me alone, Jack said finally. One-on-one, no help from anyone else. It is obviously a trap, Lisa said. Do not do it, Jack. We need you alive. Pete Williams nodded in agreement. The old soldier is right. You do not owe these aliens anything. Let them come to us, and we will destroy them like we destroyed the others. But Jack was thinking about something else. He was thinking about the 300 human fighters who looked up to him. He was thinking about the thousands of prisoners on other worlds who had found hope in his victories. He was thinking about the millions of humans still enslaved throughout the galaxy. If I refuse to fight him, what happens to all the humans who believe in the ghost engineer? Jack asked. What happens to their hope? Danny tried to argue. You do not need to be a symbol, Jack. You are already doing enough by teaching people to fight back. Jack shook his head. I became a symbol the moment I killed that first guard. People need symbols, especially when everything seems hopeless. If I back down now, I prove that humans are still afraid of the aliens. He looked around at his friends and teammates. Besides, I have been studying Valkyrie technology for months now. I know their weaknesses better than anyone. Maybe it is time to prove that a human can beat their greatest warrior. The decision was made. Jack Morrison would face General Kepler in single combat. The battle would take place on the orbital platform above Kepler 442b, broadcast throughout the galaxy so that every human and every alien could watch. Jack spent the next week preparing for the most important fight of his life. He modified his personal armor with the best alien technology he could find. He upgraded his weapons with power cells that could punch through the heaviest Valkyrie armor. Most importantly, he studied every piece of information he could find about General Kepler. The night before the battle, Jack stood alone on the observation deck of the mining camp, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, millions of humans were watching and waiting. Their freedom, their hope, their future depended on what happened tomorrow. Jack Morrison had started this war as a simple mechanic who just wanted to fix broken things. Now he was about to face the greatest warrior in the galaxy, carrying the hopes of his entire species on his shoulders. The orbital platform hung in space above Kepler 442b like a giant metal spider. It was enormous, bigger than any structure humans had ever built. The Valkyrie had constructed it as a command center for their mining operations, but today it would serve a different purpose. Today, it would be the site of the most important battle in human history. Jack Morrison stood in the center of the platform's main chamber, checking his equipment one final time. His armor was a patchwork of human engineering and alien technology, cobbled together from dozens of different sources. It looked crude compared to standard Valkyrie gear, but Jack had built it himself, and he knew every bolt, every wire, every weakness. His weapons were similarly improvised. The main gun was built from a mining laser, modified with alien power cells and fitted with targeting systems taken from destroyed Valkyrie vehicles. His backup weapons were smaller energy pistols that he had reverse-engineered from captured alien sidearms. Nothing he carried was standard military equipment, but everything had been tested and proven in battle around the edge of the chamber. Cameras floated in the air like metal insects. The Valkyrie were broadcasting this fight to every world in their empire, wanting to show their subjects what happened to those who dared to resist. But the cameras would also carry the signal to human settlements throughout the galaxy, and Jack knew that millions of his own people were watching too. The platform shuddered as a massive ship docked with it. Through the transparent aluminum windows, Jack could see the sleek lines of a Valkyrie warship, its hull covered in weapon arrays and shield generators. This was not just any ship. This was the personal vessel of General Kepler, the most feared warrior in the alien empire. Heavy footsteps echoed through the platform as the general boarded. Jack had seen recordings of Kepler before, but meeting him in person was different. The alien warrior was 8 feet tall and covered in natural armor that looked like black steel. His 4 arms moved with deadly grace, each one capable of wielding a different weapon. His eyes glowed yellow in the artificial light, and when he spoke, his voice sounded like grinding metal. "So you are the famous ghost engineer," Kepler said in perfect English. His translator device made his alien words sound almost human, but there was no mistaking the menace behind them. "You are smaller than I expected." Jack stood perfectly still, studying his opponent. The general's armor was incredible, probably worth more than everything Jack had ever owned in his life. Energy shields flickered around the alien's body, and Jack could see at least 6 different weapons attached to his belt and arms. In terms of raw power and technology, there was no contest. Kepler should win this fight easily, but Jack had not survived this long by fighting fair. "You talk too." "Much," Jack replied simply. "Are we going to fight, or are we going to stand here all day?" Kepler laughed, a harsh sound like metal scraping against stone. I like you, human. You have courage, even if you have no sense. Very well, let us begin. The alien general drew two massive energy weapons, one in each of his primary arms. They were unlike anything Jack had ever seen, sleek and deadly and humming with barely contained power. Jack estimated that either weapon could probably cut through a tank. Jack drew his own improvised weapon and immediately felt foolish, his mining laser looked like a toy compared to the general's arsenal. But he had learned long ago that appearances could be deceiving. The most dangerous machines were often the ones that looked harmless. Kethfer fired first, sending twin beams of crimson energy toward Jack's position. The beams were incredibly fast, but Jack had been expecting them. He dove behind the support pillar just as the energy blast scorched the air where he had been standing. The general advanced, firing continuously. His energy weapons seemed to have unlimited ammunition, and his forearms allowed him to maintain a constant barrage while moving. Jack found himself pinned behind cover, unable to return fire without exposing himself to the deadly beams. This was exactly what Kethfer expected. The alien had fought dozens of species across the galaxy, and they all used the same basic tactics. Find cover, exchange fire, hope to get lucky. It was predictable and boring. And it never worked against superior Valkyrie technology, but Jack Morrison had not become the ghost. Engineer by doing what his enemies expected, instead of trying to outgun the general, Jack activated a device he had hidden in his armor weeks ago. It was a small electromagnetic pulse generator, built from salvaged alien components. The EMP was not powerful enough to damage hardened military equipment, but it was strong enough to disrupt the platform's environmental systems. The lights went out. The artificial gravity fluctuated. Most importantly, the air circulation stopped working. To most species, this would have been a minor inconvenience. But Jack had studied Valkyrie physiology, and he knew their weakness. The aliens breathed a different mixture of gases than humans. Their atmosphere was richer in nitrogen and lower in oxygen. The platform's life support system was designed to provide the right mixture for Valkyrie physiology. But when that system shut down, the air began to change. Within minutes, General Kethfer was breathing atmosphere that was slowly poisoning him. The change was subtle at first, but Jack could see the effects. The alien's movements became slightly slower, his aim slightly less accurate. It was not enough to kill him, but it was enough to level the playing field. Jack used the confusion and darkness to change position. He had spent hours studying the platform's layout, memorizing every corridor, every maintenance shaft, every possible hiding spot. He moved through the shadows like a ghost. Just as his reputation suggested, when the emergency lighting came on, Jack was behind the general. His improvised laser weapon was aimed directly at the gap between Kethfer's helmet and chest armor. It was a tiny target, barely visible, but Jack had been practicing this shot for weeks. He pulled the trigger. The beam of energy that erupted from Jack's weapon was not the crude mining laser it appeared to be. Jack had spent days modifying it, boosting its power output far beyond safe limits. The energy beam punched through the general's armor like it was made of paper, but Kethfer was not finished. Even with a hole burned through his chest, the alien warrior spun around and fired his remaining weapons. Jack threw himself sideways, but one of the energy beams caught him in the shoulder, spinning him around and slamming him into the wall. Pain exploded through Jack's body as his armor cracked and sparks flew from damaged systems. His left arm was useless, probably broken. Blood ran down his face from a dozen small cuts. But he was still alive, and Kethfer was dying. The general fell to his knees, his forearms no longer able to hold his weapons. Yellow blood pooled beneath him, glowing faintly in the emergency lighting. But his eyes were still focused on Jack, still burning with hatred and disbelief. "Impossible," Kethfer whispered. "I have conquered 15 worlds. I have never been defeated. How can a primitive human kill me?" Jack struggled to his feet, using the wall for support. He looked down at the dying alien warrior, feeling no satisfaction in his victory. This was not about revenge or glory. This was about survival. "You made the same mistake all of you make," Jack said quietly. You think technology makes you superior, but technology is just tools. It is how you use the tools that matters. General Kethver died with those words echoing in his ears. The greatest warrior in the Velkari Empire had been defeated by a human. Mechanic with improvised weapons and superior tactics, the cameras captured every moment of the battle, broadcasting it to billions of viewers across the galaxy. On human worlds, people watched in amazement as their champion stood victorious over the alien general. On Velkari worlds, soldiers watched in growing fear as their greatest hero fell to an enemy they had dismissed as primitive. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. Across the Empire, Velkari forces began abandoning their positions rather than face the possibility of fighting humans. The myth of alien invincibility, carefully built over centuries of conquest, shattered. In a single moment, Jack Morrison returned to Earth not as a conqueror, but as a liberator. The Velkari Empire, facing rebellions on dozens of worlds inspired by human example, agreed to a peace treaty that recognized human independence. The age of alien domination was over. Jack refused all offers of political power or military command. He returned to his garage in Detroit, to his tools and his motorcycles and his simple life. But the galaxy would never forget what he had accomplished. The ordinary mechanic had become the warrior even aliens feared, and his legend would inspire freedom fighters for generations to come. Humanity had earned its place among the stars through courage, ingenuity, and the unbreakable human spirit. And it all began with one man who refused to give up when everything seemed hopeless.